Hello students, and today we're going to talk about unit rate, and we're going to use unit rate tables today. So our key concepts will be to calculate the unit rate from a table. So we can calculate the slope, which would be the change in y divided by the change in x, which means we will look at x minus x, which under as a denominator under y minus y. So we'll choose to, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. We can also then extend the table to include unit 1, like we've had here, 1 unit, and then fill in the y value. So when the value of y equals something, when x equals 1, that is when you have the unit rate. So let's see how this works. So we're going to find the unit rate. So we will do, let's choose the smallest numbers. So we're going to have 30 minus 15. So our numerator, 30 minus 15 divided by 6 minus 3. And we get that right here. So that's the change in x divided by the change in y. And when we do that, 30 divided by 15 is 30 minus 15, excuse me, is 15. And 6 minus 3 is 3. I'm just simplifying, and 15 divided by 3 equals 5. So whatever this represents, if I were to extend this so that I had a 1 for x, then my y value would be 5, because the unit rate for whatever this item is 5. So number 2, it's going to be the change in y divided by the change in x. So the change in y would be 15 minus 3 divided by 10 minus 2, which would be 12 divided by 8, and which simplifies to 3 over 2, or as a decimal, it would equal 1.5. So when x is 1, y is 1.5, or you could write it as 3 divided by 2. And number 3, we'll have 30 minus 7.5 divided by 6 minus 1. So 30 minus 7.5 is 32.5. Divided by 1, and we already have our unit rate there. And if we look at our chart, we actually didn't need to do all this math because we already know the unit rate is 7.5. Let's move on to number 4. 3.6 minus 1.8 divided by 10 minus 5. I just realized I miswrote something here. I just want to get that right. There we go. Okay, so 3.6, you might want to use a calculator for some of this work. So 3.6 minus 1.8 is 1.8. And 10 minus 5 is 5. And 1.8 divided by 5 equals, I think it's going to be 0.36. Yep, 0.36. So I'll do a heads up 0, 0.36. So that is our unit rate. So if I had a 1 here, this would be a 0.36. Let's look at number 5. We always take the two smallest numbers. Usually that's the easiest. So 16 minus 8 is 8. 4 minus 2 is 2. And 8 divided by 2 equals 4. So if this were 1, this would be 4. And let's do the middle of the table with this one, so we don't have to deal with a decimal. So we'll have 25 minus 20 divided by 10 minus 8, which is going to be 5 over 2. In a decimal, that would be 2.5. That's our unit rate. So if we had a 1 here, we would have a 2.5 as our y value. So let's look at some of the practice problems on the next page. We're going to do a number of practice problems here. So let's start with number 1. We have days and miles. Now I like these. We've got labels. We can actually label our answers instead of just leaving them as numbers. So let's use 60 minus 30 divided by 4 minus 2, which is 30 divided by 2, which equals 15, and that would be 15 miles in one day. Remember, we're using that per language there, meaning each. Okay, we have pounds and cost. So let's have 16 minus 8 divided by 3/8 minus, I'm going to actually rewrite that slightly easier to understand, 3/8 minus 1/4, or that's going to be 2/8. Okay, I just changed it to eighths. 16 minus 8 is 8, and 3/8 minus 2/8 is 1/8, and I'm going to convert that to a decimal. So that would be 1 divided by 8, and that would equal 0.125. We'll do a heads up 0, 125. And when I divide 8 by 0.125, I get 64. Could that be possible? $64 per pound. 16 minus 8 is 8. 3/8 minus 2/8 is 1/8. 1/8 is 0.125. 8 divided by 0.125, that would be $64. Use the dollar sign, and that's per pound. Okay, number 3. We have years and pounds. I don't know if somebody's gaining or losing. It looks like they're gaining. So we'll use change in y. We'll use 20 minus 10 over 4 minus 2, which will equal 10 over 2, which equals 5, and that would be 5 pounds per year. Number 4, looks like someone's earning some money. Maybe they're babysitting. So let's do 165 minus 85 divided by 8.25 minus 4.25, which will give us 165 minus 85 is 80. And $8.25 minus $4.25 is $4. And 80 divided by 4 equals $20. So that would be $20 per hour. Not bad. It's pretty good money. Okay, let's move on to number 5. We're looking at minutes and miles. So let's start with the change in y. So we'll do 90 minus 45 over whatever two numbers you use for your y values, you have to use the same two numbers for your x values. So 90 minus 45 is 45. 6 minus 3 is 3. And 45 divided by 3 is 15. So that would be 15 minutes per mile. And that must be like a brisk walk, not even all that brisk. Now, maybe somebody is figuring out how many gallons they get, how many miles they get per gallon, or the cost. They're figuring out cost. Cost per gallon, probably gas. So let's do the change in y over the change in x. And I'm going to use these figures here so I can avoid using decimals. So 50 minus 20 over 20 minus 10, which would be 30 over 10, which 50 minus 20 is 30, that's right. 20 minus 10 is 10, and that would be $3 per gallon. Let's put a dollar sign there. Okay, number 7, looks like we're selling tickets. So let's use the first two numbers. 176 minus 88 over 8 minus 4. And 176 minus 88 is 88. And 8 minus 4 is 4. And 88 divided by 4 is 22. So that would be $22 per ticket. And number 8, we're buying folders. So let's see, we'll do the first set of numbers. So 2 minus 1 over 4 minus 2, which would be 1 over 2, which will equal 0.50, 50 cents per folder. I can write it that way if I want, with the cent mark. Okay, number 9. So we have decimals everywhere, so let's work with our smallest numbers. 42.5 minus 25.5 divided by 5 minus 3. So 42.5 minus 25.5 is 17 divided by 2, which equals 8.5, and this is in the context of money earned, so that's going to be $8.50 per dog. So each dog she walks, she gets $8.50. And now I don't know if we're taking the photos or developing the photos, but let's see what the unit rate is. So we'll use these two lowest numbers. Smaller numbers are easier numbers. So that would be 4 minus 2 is 2, 20 minus 10 is 10. That can reduce to 1/5. But since we're talking about money, 1 divided by 5 is 0.20. So that would be 20 cents per photo. So let's look at the error analysis and see what we can work with here. So in the error analysis, we have this table with X values of 2, 4, and 6, and Y values of 10, 20, and 30. And the person said that the unit rate is 2 divided by 10. So they did 2 divided by 10. And what they did not do, their division is backwards. They also didn't do the change in X over the change in Y. But we could simply do, so division is backwards. So what we can do is, instead of 10 divided by 2, we'll do 2 divided by, see, this is what they did that was wrong, and they got 0.2. So we're going to do 10 divided by 2. We use a fraction, which equals 5. So the unit rate is 5. And if we were to use the change in X over the change in Y, we would have the same answer. Okay? All right, the next one we have in table 2, we have X values of 5, 10, and 20, and Y values of 1.25, 2.5, and 5. So they said the unit rate is 10 divided by 2, which is incorrect. It should be 2.5, but it's also backwards. So let's solve it correctly. So we're going to have, we'll start with 1.25 divided by 5, which will equal 0.25. And I believe we have one more. So we've got X values of 10, 20, and 50, and we have Y values of 4, 8, and 20. They said that the unit rate is 50 divided by 20, and they got 2.5. Basically, their division is backwards. So let's do this correctly. We're going to have 4 divided by 10, which will equal 0.4. Now, it's going to work with any set of numbers. If I did 8 divided by 20, I will also get 0.4, or 20 divided by 50, which will also equal 0.4. So either way, our answer is 0.4. Now, unit rate, as we talked about before, is a way of finding out what 1 unit of something is worth. And this is especially helpful when you're shopping in the store and you want to get a better value for your money. But unit tables can also help us do that. So keep practicing. You're working very hard, staying with it till the end of the year, and I'm so proud of you. So stay with it, keep practicing, and you'll be great.